Hello friends, welcome to my channel, Sea of Infinity. I haven't made any YouTube videos before or anything like that, so I'm just kind of winging it as I go along, so bear with me. And I'm sorry if it's, a bit off cuff. I'm just kind of going as I go along. I have a few points written down, but I'm not following a set script or anything, so apologies if it doesn't flow the best, but we'll see how we go. So my name's Sarah, nice to meet you. If you're watching this, I'm assuming that you've already had some sort of spiritual awakening, but if not, that's okay as well. I was thinking later, if you guys are interested in the content that I'm putting out, I could delve a little more into spiritual awakening sort of ideas and how to navigate that journey. All right, yeah, so as I was saying as well, I haven't done this before and I am literally just a regular person like everybody else, as we all are. So please don't take anything that I say as gospel or as an absolute truth. Just take what resonates, use your own discernment, and yeah, because it's ultimately all about discovering your own truth. So you can literally just take anything I say and chuck it out the window. And also, as I was like to say, that a lot of the information or topics that I tend to want to talk about in this arena, I don't necessarily feel like is my own information. Almost feels like it was downloaded, as people say. It just kind of comes to me through a knowing, and it just feels right. And I guess kind of through more conceptual ideas. But anyway, we'll go along with it and hopefully you'll see what I mean. So with saying that, I guess I'm just trying to say, don't look to me as if I'm some source of information, because it's not coming from human me. I feel it's coming from the source we're all connected to, and through that, because we all have a channel to it, we all have our unique perspective. So that's exactly why you need to take what resonates and flows for yourself and leave the rest, because this really is about everyone finding their own balance within themselves and their own truth and a placement within their own journey. Okay, so we can get into that more of that sort of stuff later too. As I mentioned before, I haven't done anything like this before, so for at least the moment would be really helpful. If you do enjoy this information and you do want to see me do more of this sort of thing, if you just like or comment, just so it helps me gauge whether or not I should continue with this and how much I should invest of my time and energy into it, I guess. Yeah, so thank you. So moving along to the point. Today, the topic of what I wanted to delve into, when you get into these areas, there's so much you can talk about, but I feel like such a good starting place is the point, right? I feel like it can already be so hard to navigate and work out the point just within our own usual 3D linear timeline way of thinking. And then when you awaken to a more sea of infinity, it's even then harder to think, oh my gosh, now where is the point? Now it's a literal infinite amount of points. And that's kind of the point too. So I would like to say that I feel like, due to the fact that it is a literal sea of infinity of points, the overall general point, at least it's the message I got for myself, but I feel like it's a general overall point for everyone, is to love and have fun. And I know that's easier said than done, but I feel like it's kind of just about within our day-to-day life and outlook on things, just trying to take a step back, take a breath, and just love ourselves, love each other, and just do what we can to have fun in the little moments. Even just as like a good starting point to before you find what your specific like point or pathway is or feels right to you, just going back to the basis of love and fun is like a really good place, I feel, to just ground yourself when you are feeling a bit like, oh, where do I go? What do I do? What is the point? You know, what is the point of life, the point of my life, the point of suffering, the point of, it can just get, so I feel like in those moments where you are still trying to navigate it all, it can just be really helpful to go back to that point of love and fun and just, yeah, letting the rest then fall into place and come to you as it does. All right, so yeah, as I was saying before as well, the point is absolutely unique to you because it really is, yeah, just such a unique pathway for everyone. I feel like the best way, we can delve more into these sort of aspects later, but I feel like such a great way to describe it for now is when you have a, I don't know what it's called, but like a threaded tapestry that, like, you know, creates a beautiful picture. When you look at it from the back, it's just all these messy threads just going everywhere, all these different colored threads, and it looks chaotic. And imagine being one of those threads. You're like, what the heck is happening here? This is all just a mess. We're all messy. It's just like, we're all just like going through chaotic, you know. And I feel like that's just such a good representation for this part of life's journey, and this like 3D perspective way of life and karma and cleansing energy and all that, where it is just like this unknown chaotic swirl. And then, as they say, a lot of the times when you get to the other side, it all makes sense and is a lot more clear and you have the bigger picture view. I feel like that's kind of like then flipping that tapestry over and seeing the front of it now instead of the messy threads on the back, and you get to see the beautiful masterpiece that is that messy chaos that you were going through was creating all along and always was. Because that's the thing with the Sea of Infinity too, right? Like, it's everything everywhere all at once, and we're kind of just, yeah, going through this one little threaded pathway in order to be part of the overall creation of the masterpiece, which is really beautiful when you get to kind of see life a bit more in that way, I feel. So yeah, I hope that helps just kind of break that down a little better, but we can delve into those sort of things more if we need to. All right, the next one I feel is because yeah, I feel like we can definitely in a later video, if you guys are interested, talk more on a good way to help navigate your own point. But I feel like for now, if we just kind of stick to just conceptualizing the point itself, just so then it kind of helps, I feel, if you're able to conceptualize the idea of the point itself, then it helps broaden your own horizon to locate your own point, if that makes sense. Kind of like a needle in a haystack. If you're just trying to find a needle in a haystack, it's just like, where do I go? What do I do? But if you're more understanding of the idea of the needle and conceptualizing the ideas of how the needle in the haystack kind of operates and works, it can then make it easier for you to kind of pinpoint where that needle is rather than just scurrying for it, if that makes sense. So yeah, I feel like another good place to talk about is just how infinite a point really is. So the way I kind of like to think and view it all is like literally like everything all at once, like a big bright white light just like everywhere, like a big sea of infinity. And then it's all those fractals of that light energy, right, being break down into unique patterns that form all the different aspects of ourselves and creation and life in the universe. So when you really, I feel like, look at it from that outward view of whole sea, blanket sea of infinity, and then you're just like picking one little point out, that one point itself is connected to the sea of infinity, so is infinite in itself. And so I guess what I kind of mean from that, if you think of a point in time, it's all just like an infinite sea of time, and you just pick a point in time, like today, for example. And we typically, from a 3D perspective, view the timeline as going, you know, backwards. Like, this is what we did yesterday, this is what we did 100 years ago, this is what we did 1,000 years ago, and we perceive our 3D timeline coming out from this one point in time, and we're kind of like in this one point in time, and we're looking back through the sea of infinity. That's our perspective, our 3D perspective, that's our timeline. But when you're thinking of it like that, right, a sea of infinity, you're in this one point of time, we've looked at what happens if you turn this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, and change your perspective from that one point in time. Suddenly you have a different 3D timeline perspective, a different events of history, all leading to this one point of time. So literal infinite amount of timelines, previous amounts of history, amounts of energy flow patterns, leading to that one point in time, which then you can kind of, I guess, think of ideas of how maybe throughout history itself, even some people have had like slightly differing ideas of what happened in history. And we often just think, well, you know, one of them's probably white and one of them just got it slightly confused or wrong, but who knows in the grand scheme of infinity, just throwing it out there of like a possibility. Maybe they were both right, and at some point in time, their past perspective, like their past perspective point in time, 3D timeline, was so similar enough that they were able to merge into the present point of time. But then when they're both looking back at their perspective of the past, it's so similar but just slightly different, and then that's where you get those different views, possibly. Not all the time, obviously some people do get confused with things, but I just guess I mean on like a grander aspect of like record keeping, or even things like with different religions having such a similar concept underneath, but they have a different kind of story on top, almost like a different, they're coming from a different perspective, a different, you know, point of looking through it from a different point, but they're still at the same point. Yeah. Leading to that, I feel, even just, you know, I'm not saying that this actually is the case either, but I feel like it just helps kind of when you're thinking of a sea of infinity and points in a sea of infinity, just how broad and loose logic and facts of certain things get. Like, yes, it's still logic and factual from that point of time, but maybe not from it. You see what I mean? So I guess, like, even when I'm, for example, people who say the earth is flat. Now, I'm not saying that the earth is actually flat. I know it's round, but I'm just, you know, if we just kind of play with these ideas, I'm not even saying this is real either. But if you're looking at the earth from a 3D perspective, one point in time, of course, it looks like round, right? It's a point in time. But when you start thinking about, as we said, like a sea of infinity, and that point of time having infinite points of time leading from it, if you wanted to kind of be able to view all that, you might like lay it flat out like a map, and then you have all these different aspects of time merging together. And then, so instead of the earth being round from a 3D perspective, from a zoomed out infinite or several timeline perspective, it might become more, you know, flat, to be able to view those multidimensional aspects. But it's just a different point of perspective, not an actual physical flat land, if you get what I mean. Also in that sense, I feel like it makes a lot of sense for the idea of, you know, looking at it from a 3D perspective, there's all these suns everywhere. But again, if you zoom out and then are connecting those from a conceptual idea of the sea of infinity on all those infinite points leading out from the infinite points and infinite possibilities, I can almost feel like it's like you would conceptualize it from all those suns almost merging together into one giant sun, one giant source energy, right, that's emitting out and creating all this life. And then, as I said, with the sort of flatland perspective of all the planets and times of life throughout the universe, then becoming just like one big like flatland screen that like rotates around the one source light. And that's like time itself rotating around the source energy. And then when you're, say, in that source energy and you're like, I want to go to that point in time, swirling around on the big screen of flat land, and then you zoom into that point of time and then are viewing it instead of from an infinite perspective into a 3D sort of perspective as we do, you're seeing it from that point in time that you went into. So you see your planet, the other planets, the other suns, the other points of time spread out in a 3D perspective. If that makes sense. Maybe not, but it's just like, I feel like conceptualizing those sort of ideas. Like, I'm not saying that's a literal place, a light somewhere with things swirling around it, but just conceptualizing those sort of ideas, I feel like broadens the way you're able to just sort of think about and grasp these sort of things outside of just a very narrow, linear 3D point of perspective where it's just doop from one point in time to another point in time, doop, and instead thinking of like timing everywhere and infinite, and you can just, you know, you don't have to just follow that one linear perspective. You can broaden your horizon. Yeah. And I guess just to finish off for today's video, because I don't want to go too in depth with anything, because I can always do more videos later in case this isn't even something that anyone wants to hear. So I feel like I'd just like to go back to the unique point of focus for ourselves, you know, kind of going out of that scene, grounding back down to that focus. And as I said, you know, a general point of love and fun is such a good one to ground yourself in. And as I also said as well, there's like so many good techniques that you can use at a later point to be able to navigate your own point and locate it and distinguish what your own pathway is a lot easier, that we can delve into. But just going back to how, grasping the idea of how like unique your specific point is going back to that like sea of infinity and how we all are like a fractal of the source energy, but each very unique, because in the way of, I feel like it's almost like a pattern, like a fingerprint. You have a piece of this source energy that when it's in its purest state is literally all the same, right? But then it goes through these life experience, or, you know, all these karmic energies and things happen, and it swirls this energy up into a pattern. For example, I have just a way I like to think of it, like a unique fingerprint, a swirl of source energy in the unique pattern that emanates as you, right? And as you go through and change your energies and form your energies, you're kind of changing your own swirl of source energy as you transform yourself. So literally no one's source energy swirl is the same as yours, and it's not meant to be, because if it was exactly the same, you would be exactly them in the exact point of time, which is like essentially impossible for two perspectives to be in the same point in time at once, right? Because that is what we are. We are all a unique perspective. Like, even if someone's sitting right here, it's still a slightly different perspective. To have like your exact pattern is unique. So, living with that, I guess that's the key message I would like to leave it all with, of the point in the sea of infinity, is that it can be hard, very hard, to grasp your own point and pathway sometimes. And it can be very hard to not become lost in a sea of infinity when there's so many infinite points. So really just allowing yourself to take the time you need, because there's infinite time, and allow the process to unfold in a more natural, gradual way that feels right to you, so that you're still able to have love and fun along the way. So grounding yourself, surrounding yourself with things that make you light up. Yeah, so I think that's a good place to leave it for today. And let me know if there's any aspects of this that you'd like to hear more about, or any questions you have. And hopefully someone or some people are interested enough that I can talk more about these sort of things, because it's always fun to do. All right, peace, love, light, and blessings to you all, and have a wonderful day.